Hi there, I'm Daniel Seberg at Google in Washington, D.C., and we are hanging out live with Robin Abcarian, who is a national correspondent with the LA Times. She's in LA. Hi, Robin.
Howdy.
And Conor Friedersdorf, who is a staff writer with The Atlantic. He's also in California, probably not that far away from Robin. Orange County, is that right?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Okay, great. So, Robin, I want to start with you. I know you've been pretty embedded with the Mitt Romney campaign. You've been traveling all over the country with him. What are your thoughts right now on the status of his campaign in light of what happened with the Rick Santorum wins in Colorado, Missouri, and Minnesota? How is his campaign feeling at this point?
Well, I think Mitt Romney probably, I'm not sure he has very sensitive feelings, but I bet his feelings are hurt right now. Because he's sort of robotic all the time on the trail. I think that they would love to have sewn this thing up, put it away, gone forward as the presumptive nominee, but the conservative voters are simply not letting him do that. They are continuing to express their ambivalence about his record as a conservative, and so they are making him prove himself. And I'm not even sure that there's a certain segment of the conservative electorate that will ever let him prove himself as a conservative, because the doubts run so deep about his ultimate conservative ideology. But this is, I think they're taking the long view. I think they understand that, there will be bumps along the way. They've expressed that, certainly. And they're so well funded and so well organized that I think they know it's just going to be a long slog, but they're pretty confident that eventually their man will be the nominee.
And Conor, you've recently reported that Santorum really needed a great showing to try to get back into this race in any way that he possibly have a voice in this, and he did that in a sense by taking all three of those states. But what does that mean for his end game? I mean, does he have any shot of winning the nomination, or what does he hope to gain as his campaign goes on and now tries to really have much more of a prominent position?
If I had to bet, I would bet against him winning the nomination. At the same time, sweeping these three states does a couple things for him. One, it probably gets him more donations from people who think, wow, this guy, we didn't expect this from him. He'd only won one state before. Everybody kind of written him off, and so maybe it is worth sending him $15, or maybe it's worth sending him $10,000. Maybe a big donor will be swayed by this. And the other thing he gets is a bunch of media attention. I think a lot of editors thought to themselves, well, this looks like it's a race between Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich. And now they're thinking, well, maybe Newt Gingrich actually is done and it's Santorum that is the non-Romney of the moment. And so if nothing else, he gets to get his message out to a large audience, and even if he doesn't win the nomination, maybe he's a little bit more influential in shaping the party platform. Maybe this helps him in a post-campaign career. So who knows what's going through his mind, whether he thinks he can really win, but regardless, it helps him get his message out. He certainly wants to do that.
Go ahead, Robin.
I think he thinks he really can win. I've spent quite a bit of time on the trail with Santorum, and I have to say, I was thinking about this morning. If you could graft Rick Santorum's personality onto Mitt Romney, you would have a really good candidate, because what happens, I think, in crowds is one of the things that Mitt Romney has going against him is that he comes off as so scripted and stiff, and we know these are superficial things, but they really matter with voters. Connectability, relatability matters. You watch Rick Santorum on the trail, this guy is so natural. His views are loathsome to a tremendous number of people out there, but you never know, watching him in action with voters, that he inspires this kind of loathing on the part of liberals and, even some moderates. Because he's not defensive. He will spend as much time as he needs. He's, makes fun of himself sometimes. He's just got a very kind of relatable personality that you don't see with Mitt Romney. And so I think also with these wins, you'll be getting a chance to see more of Santorum instead of the growly, angry candidate standing on the debate stage who's not getting enough time. And I think that'll continue to win people over, too, up to a certain point.
And actually, Robin, along those lines, I've heard from some folks who suggest that there's a possibility, again, just a possibility, that now the Romney and the Santorum camps may be talking about a possible allegiance together and maybe joining forces down the road. Again, this is very early speculation, but I don't know if either of you want to weigh in on the possibility of...
I don't know about you, Conor. That sounds like wishful thinking to me at this point. I think Santorum's going for it for a while.
I agree, and I think that Romney is especially concerned about Tea Party voters who have a sort of small government attitude and don't trust his bona fides on those issues. Yeah. Rick Santorum's record on those same things isn't very good either. That's the strange thing about the contest right now, is that neither Romney nor Gingrich nor Santorum have a very good small government record. They all sort of supported the big government things that conservatives disliked about the Bush administration, and Ron Paul's foreign policy views are too toxic within the conservative movement for them to ally with him, and so it's a case where there really is no one for them to ally with to sort of have those small government bona fides, at least no one in the race.
Yeah.
And so, Robin, go ahead.
Well, you've got, I mean, what Santorum has is this tremendous appeal to social conservatives and religious conservatives. I think the Obama administration has stumbled a bit on that contraception and health insurance rule, because I was in some Santorum crowds in Colorado last week where people were just talking in very angry terms about how the administration was trying to restrict religious freedom. So Santorum has these very solid conservative credentials on social issues. Perhaps people will be able to forgive him a little bit on his penchant for earmarking. I don't know. But Conor's right. The Tea Party, you know, small government conservatives don't have much to work with either guy here.
And you know, Robin, just playing a little bit off how Mitt Romney's trying to position himself, he's spent a considerable amount of time comparing himself to the president and really presenting himself as the presumptive nominee. Do you think that in light of what's happened recently, that he needs to spend more time distinguishing himself between Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum and even Ron Paul, less about comparisons to President?
Well, Mitt Romney runs a two-track campaign. When he's out among the public, among voters, he focuses only on Barack Obama. His surrogates and his campaign are busily working away in their, you know, magic workshop of opposition research and so on, barraging reporters with emails about Santorum's penchant for earmarks, about Newt Gingrich's unreasonable plans for a moon colony, and then, you know, sends the surrogates out to attack. So he can kind of stay above the fray and continue to position himself as the alternative to Barack Obama.
And speaking of President Obama, Conor, I want to go back to you. You recently had a very strong critique about President Obama's transition from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan to more of a focus on covert operations. If you can talk a little bit about what you wrote and then how you see the foreign policy discussion shaping up in the campaigns between now and November. Sure.
President Obama has really transitioned the war on terror to a sort of CIA-run phase. Of course, David Petraeus is now running the CIA, and as we pull out troops from Iraq and Afghanistan, you see most of the stuff we're doing overseas anyway in order to fight terrorism are these CIA drone strikes in Pakistan and Yemen and elsewhere. And the program is really cloaked in secrecy. We don't know the legal authority for it, that's classified, as is the list of people that they're targeting and the results. In fact, although President Obama in an online chat did acknowledge these drone strikes, if you ask a White House spokesman on the record, they'll say, I can't even confirm that that such a program exists. So it's this sort of weird thing where everyone knows it's happening, but you can't officially say it on the record. And my concern about this is that it's very hard to go into an election and have the debate that you should have about foreign policy when so much of it is going on behind the veil of state secrets. And it would literally be illegal for someone in the Obama administration to step forward and blow the whistle and say, hey, you know, I don't think that this is working, or I don't think that this is moral. You know, it constrains what the president can talk about, too, in debates. And I think going back all the way to 9/11, the presidential elections that we've had since then, in 2004 and 2008, the Iraq War was a huge issue in both of those things. And there was a big, robust debate, and public opinion changed, the policies that we were pursuing. I don't see how that mechanism happens, how that sort of democratic accountability works as well, when a big chunk of our foreign policy, arguably the most significant chunk, is classified and really can't be discussed.
Robin, do you have anything you want to add to Conor's comments?
No, I find Conor's, I mean, that's fascinating to me. It's not an area that I write about, but what I see happening on the campaign trail is when it comes to foreign policy, you know, the candidates boil things down to pretty simple terms, and particularly with Mitt Romney, actually all the candidates on the Republican side, their whole sort of line is, we're proud of America. I will never bow to a Saudi prince or a Saudi, you know, I will never, they sort of take this attitude that Barack Obama has, you know, been, remember that image of him when he bowed to, I can't remember if it was a premiere of somewhere, and so they feel that President Obama has gone around the world apologizing for America, and this is their big appeal to the, you know, red meat conservatives, that we are not apologizing for anything that we have done, and it always gets a huge roar of approval in these conservative crowds, and that's where they tend to focus. They don't go into details about foreign policy, and this is, you know, a complex, difficult issue that doesn't really translate well on the campaign trail. So, you know, their appeal to conservatives is, we'll never apologize for what we've done, and we'll never bow to any other head of state.
Well, speaking of conservatives, there's a large gathering going on here as we speak in Washington, D.C., the Conservative Political Action Conference. And Robin, I wonder if you could speak to their role in all of this, how their discussion may be shaping the campaigns going forward.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not there covering it this time around. I wish I were. But what you've got is a group of conservatives who come, and they have a straw poll at the end of their meeting, and it'll be interesting to see how it turns out, because all the candidates, as far as I understand it, will come and talk, and they generate news, and generally what happens is bloggers get in fights in the hallways, and those, you know, videos go on YouTube, and everybody gets all worked up. I'm not sure that this will have a real substantial impact on the upcoming primaries in Arizona and Michigan and then Super Tuesday, but, you know, all eyes are focused on this race, so it makes it more interesting to people.
Conor, anything you wanted to add to that? Otherwise, I've got a final question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, you've written a little bit about poverty and race and how those issues are being addressed. How do you think those will shape up in terms of what President Obama's statements are and any of the remaining Republicans in the race addressing this issue?
You know, when it comes to poverty, Mitt Romney has an image problem. He recently, you know, there's this recent story where he said, "I'm not worried about poor people," and that was the quote that kind of made its way around. And he went on to say, they have the safety net, and if it needs fixing, then I will go ahead and fix it. But I'm really worried about the middle class, not poor people in the upper class. Those sort of. And
Newt Gingrich really jumped on that, didn't he?
He did, yeah. And I imagine that President Obama is going to jump on it as well. I think this is actually, you understand rhetorically why they're going to jump on it. I think it's actually a little substantively unfair, only because you know, American domestic policy does basically focus on the middle class and basically ignores the poor outside of the safety net. And so, you know, fixing a hole in the safety net like Mitt Romney said he would do. Basically, that's what Obamacare basically fixed a hole in the safety net for people without insurance, and Mitt Romney can claim to have done, largely the same thing in Massachusetts. I don't know if he will claim it. But if you look at the major things that the Obama administration has tried to do, helping out people who own homes and are being foreclosed upon, trying to get college tax credits, trying to help blue-collar workers in Detroit with the bailouts. All of these things were aimed at the middle class and the working class, not the very, very poor. The very, very poor were never able to buy houses. The very poor were never working on the assembly line in Detroit. They didn't have a job at all. And so it may be unfortunate that in America we don't really do much aside from the safety net for the very poor. We don't try to give them a trampoline, as Newt Gingrich put it. Not that he has any actual plan to trampoline them into the middle class, but so I don't know how it will play. I think substantively there is a huge difference in what President Obama and Mitt Romney want to target toward the middle class, but really I don't think the very, very poor have that much difference in what they want to do and what President Obama has done and what Mitt Romney is suggesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Robin, anything else you wanted to add at this point?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that moment when Mitt Romney said he was not concerned about the very poor, I thought was just a perfect example of how this guy really is not steeped in conservative ideology and the conservative way of talking about things like poverty. And I think perhaps it's his 25 years as a businessman, dealing with a hedge fund or private equity and whatever he was off doing, making many millions of dollars. During that time, he was not, internalizing how Republicans talk about poor people. And how Republicans talk about poor people is they say that a rising tide lifts all boats, that tax cuts create jobs, and it's good for everybody, and it trickles down and it helps the bottom. But you never say you're not concerned about those people because you want to be able to say that my policies will help make them rich and will vault them at least into the middle class, if not into the upper class. So it's just revealed yet another place where Mitt Romney's not super comfortable in his ideological conservative skin sometimes.
All right, we've just got a couple minutes left. I'm going to put you both on the spot with a prediction because isn't politics all about predictions sometimes? Conor, if you had to choose who's going to be the nominee in November going up against President Obama, who would you pick?
If I had to bet, I would still bet on Mitt Romney. I think he's been the front runner all along, and it just seems to me that everyone focuses on his flaws as long as he is most likely to win. If anyone else got to the point where it seemed like maybe they would win, they would focus on their flaws, and to me, Gingrich's flaws and Santorum's flaws are even greater, and Ron Paul will not be allowed by the foreign policy hawk wing of the party to take the nomination.
And Robin?
I have to agree with Conor. I think that of all the remaining field of the Republican candidates, I think Mitt Romney presents Barack Obama with the strongest challenge in the general election, and I think Republicans, some of whom may be holding their nose and picking him, will still eventually go with him because they know he probably will give Barack Obama the toughest time.
All right, we'll keep an eye on Arizona, Michigan, and of course Super Tuesday. Less than a month away. Robin and Conor, thank you so much for joining this Hangout. We appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.